Hello everyone! 1 year ago on YouTube channel Nathaniel Drew with more than 1.7 million subscribers posted a clip with the topic, "Why do Europeans hate Americans so much?" The clip has attracted nearly 3 million viewers and left nearly 40,000 comments. Join the YouTube channel Looking at America to find out what people around the world are commenting on this topic. If this is your first time coming to the YouTube channel Looking at America, please subscribe to the channel and like the clip to support the channel to produce more interesting content. El video presenta una serie de entrevistas y reflexiones sobre la percepción de los europeos hacia los americanos. Las opiniones varían, pero muchas son negativas. Algunos europeos ven a los americanos como superficiales, ignorantes sobre el mundo exterior, y excesivamente enfocados en el dinero y el consumo. Los entrevistados mencionan que los americanos tienden a polarizarse más que los europeos y que hay una percepción de que Estados Unidos se ha vuelto menos cool con el tiempo, especialmente debido a figuras políticas polarizadoras como Trump y movimientos como el Tea Party. También se menciona la influencia de los medios y las redes sociales en amplificar esta imagen negativa, destacando problemas como la violencia con armas y la desigualdad económica. Sin embargo, no todas las opiniones son negativas. Algunos entrevistados valoran aspectos de la cultura americana, como la religión y la energía de su gente. El narrador, un americano viviendo en Europa, reflexiona sobre su propia experiencia, reconociendo tanto las críticas justas como la necesidad de explorar más. Concluye que, aunque enfrenta estereotipos negativos, prefiere ser el mismo y aceptar las consecuencias, resultando la importancia de entender y empatizar con las experiencias de los inmigrantes. I couldn't help but laugh when I said Americans don't know geography. Then this British girl said, "Wait, we're not from Europe. We have left the EU. I'm from Canada, and when I travel, people always assume I'm American." When they learned that I was actually from Canada and not America, their attitudes and conversations completely changed towards me in a more positive direction. There are certainly negative attitudes toward the United States abroad. I had the same experience way back in 1981. American tourists had a reputation for being loud, for one thing. I saw examples of that, but I met many American youths who were very nice and likable. Yeah, I am Colombian and American, and I always say I am Colombian when I am traveling abroad. Honestly, I rather have the drug stereotype than been perceived as an American. I appreciate your perspective. As a Russian who lived 10 years in Ukraine and left because of an attack of my own country insanity, I face condemnation of my nationality in Europe. A doctor in Germany refused to see me when he found out I was Russian. I can really understand why Ukrainians hate all Russians. They have a lot of pain, death, loss. It's very hard to get over it without generalizing that everyone is bad. But what seems unfair to me, among other things, is the treatment of me as bad from other people, not Ukrainians. Although I have never in my life voted for Putin when I lived in Moscow. I went to protests, and I even lost my flat and my job in Ukraine and my friends. I volunteered during the war and helped Ukrainians for free. But still I am discriminated against. I am not writing to complain, but just to tell my story. Let the war end as soon as possible and people stop dying. Thank you for your videos. So sorry to hear that. I live close Ukrainian border and I maybe understand why. But it doesn't mean all people are the same. I personally know some Russians who are amazing, tolerant, kind and against the war, praying for you to always have a hope. As a Japanese, I understand how Americans feel. It's really frustrating when foreigners talk about their country based on secondary information obtained on social media. For example, our suicide rate statistics have now fallen to 49th in the world. Yet we are still associated with suicide stereotypes. Please don't judge us based on anime or porn. I am a Nigerian immigrant who has lived in the US since I was 11 years old. I'm 41 now. In my experience, there is a lot of ignorance, racism, and violence in America. However, I find that the average American is kind-hearted and has a generous spirit. Americans will rally round to help someone in a bind without thinking twice. Americans are big-hearted people, and I appreciate that about them. A professor from England said something like this in a lecture in 1980. When I came here in the 1950s, no one asked why I came to America. It was obvious. The most freedom, the highest standard of living, the most rights, etc. Now, people ask me why I came. As a Brit, I studied American history at college, traveled all over parts of the East and West Coasts there. I found many folks there to be friendly and chatty, especially outside of the big cities. I found Americans to be a mass of contradictions. Patriotic, but always describing themselves as Afro-American, Irish-American, Italian-American, etc., but never just American. I also observed a quiet, but consistent self-segregation that most groups practice there. I was impressed by their stunning and varied geography and open spaces, but I was depressed by the homelessness in the early 2000s and the lack of healthcare and the culture of violence both by criminals and the police. I reminded myself that, as a European, our diverse cultures are very old and have learned from our many mistakes and achievements. America, however, is still a young country. The tipping culture in the US was particularly degrading, however. All in all, European countries like the UK, Belgium, and France also have problems with crime and terrorism, especially Brussels. I think it's good not to get too sanctimonious when criticizing America, as there are much worse places to live, as many immigrants to the US will attest. We grow up in Europe admiring the American myths, American dream, technology, their pop culture. At first, we're genuinely convinced it's a whole new perfect world where everyone is happy, has money and a nice big house with a garage and a big car. Then you educate yourself, learn about the politics, the economy, contact people on the internet, and the bubble bursts. Because it's not entirely what they make it out to be. I'm Dutch, and I think it's a lot of the things already said in this video, which come down to problems in the political system, gun laws, left versus right, big gap between rich and poor, etc. But I don't think you can judge someone just for being born in the US. There must be people on both sides of the political spectrum, a lot of them being wonderful people. And I think Europeans who are being rude to Americans without getting to know them don't see this difference between the collective and the individual. I absolutely resonated with the point about extremes, that Americans are either super poor or super rich, etc. I'm from the US, and when I studied abroad in Paris, that was the first time I truly experienced the beautiful mundane. Tens of people who are right in the middle, living fulfilling lives and enjoying themselves without a need for an excess of anything. Whenever I tell my mom I'd like to move to Europe, or specifically France, she always says that you can't make much money there, that the salaries in the US are unbeatable. But in France, I experienced not needing much money to be happy, not needing to chase upward career mobility for the sake of compensation, because you're never actually living in fear of needing healthcare or a retirement savings. Train tickets to neighboring countries are under $100. Good food is inexpensive and highly valued. Working extremely hard is looked down upon. In Paris, I could actually just focus on the present moment because it was beautiful, whereas in the US I constantly live in fear of the future. German here. In my youth in the 90s, America looked like the coolest place in the world. But the older I got, the more I became disillusioned. I think the overall American image is complicated. There are many things great about America, but the bad parts are dystopian. Just to name a few examples, the risk that one's children might be shot going to school and a widespread refusal to do anything about it. or that there are discussions about whether things like healthcare or education costs should or shouldn't financially ruin most normal people. Things like medical debt or student debt even existing is baffling to me. I have several American friends who are absolutely great people, open and friendly, and probably the average American is just like that. But through the internet, you also see the other side of the country, which seems pretty insane from the outside. Media amplifying the loudest, most outrageous voices also doesn't help, but that's not just an American problem. I recently reviewed some comments on the topic, why do Europeans hate Americans so much? For me personally, I am Vietnamese, although in the past America invaded our country. But now Vietnam and America have put the past behind us. I also have many very good American friends. Hope you have fun watching my clip. Please leave a comment to give me your feedback. See you again.